Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris, but my grandkids call me Rivers. Here we ask a simple question. What did life teach you the hard way? Because a lifetime reveals things you can't learn any other way. On this show, we sit down with people who lived a little, stumbled a little, and learned a few things along the way. So pull up a chair, because what a lifetime reveals can steady another. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris. I'm also known as Rivers by my kids and my grandkids. I like that name better than I do Steve. Steve's kind of boring. So, Erin, you can call me Rivers. You can call me Steve. You can call me Mr. Harris. Please don't call me Mr. Harris. At any rate, I've been talking with Erin. She's a friend of my daughter and my son-in-law. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. We'd like to welcome to the show Erin Allen. You told me that you were born and raised in Canada.
Yes, born and raised in Canada in a small town called McGrath. Ran around barefoot with my cousins like a little wild animal. It was just the best childhood ever. We built forts. We went sledding once we went sledding in August because it snowed on summer holiday, all sorts of awesome things up there in Canada. Deep connection to the beautiful nature up there and just a strong, big extended family. Big struggle in my life was when our family moved unexpectedly from this really settled, beautiful home childhood space to Idaho. I was the tail end of my 9th grade year and we moved to a small town in Idaho and only stayed 6 months and moved again to Boise. And so there's a lot of disruption, a lot of change, but it also led to some really beautiful lifelong friendships and relationships and growing experiences. And I think that was my first experience realizing and trusting that God has a plan for me, and that plan is going to include disruption, and that there are beautiful things prepared already. Like even before the disruption is the blessings that they're waiting for me. So yeah, had beautiful high school experiences in Boise, graduated, went to BYU, and had this really deep desire to travel and to experience the world. I remember just walking down along campus and suddenly getting this idea, I want to go live abroad. And I literally just was walking and I just turned and went into the study abroad office and I looked at my options and found out that there was a work study program that I could be a part of. So not only am I over there, but I'm earning money and I'm working and I'm immersed in the language. And my parents were really supportive. So I ended up moving to Belgium for a summer. I speak French. And I remember how challenging that was and how beautiful that was. I remember calling home one random day back using a calling card. Do you remember back when you used calling cards?
Yeah.
So calling my home and just touching base with everyone. And on that call, my parents told me that they had big news that they were going to be moving to Abu Dhabi, which I'd never even heard of. Never even heard of that place. I was like, where's Abu Dhabi? And they said, oh, it's in the United Arab Emirates. It's close to Saudi Arabia. Your dad's been given a job opportunity over there. And without even having to think about it, I had this gut, knowing that I needed to go. And I told them before I hung up the phone, I'm coming. And so I just deferred my schooling at BYU and came home after my Belgium experience, helped them pack up. And we moved to Abu Dhabi and I lived there for 6 months and worked and traveled and had so many experiences that stretched and grew me and grew my family. I remember my mom, she always seemed like she's my mom, right? And I remember just always feeling so safe with my parents. And it was really interesting. I was grown, I was in college at this point, but witnessing her experience so much disruption in her life. I remember one day we were trying to go grocery shopping in these little marketplaces over in Abu Dhabi, and it was overwhelming and everything was new and something hadn't gone smoothly. And on the way back to our little apartment, she just sat down on the curb and put her face in her hands and started to bawl. And I went and I tried to sit by her and she just was like, leave me alone. She just wanted some space. And I remember walking back by myself to the apartment, feeling very shaken inside, but also feeling really, now I look back on it and I feel really grateful to have seen such a human moment, such a real moment. That's a space that I really actually cherish and treasure with other people, whether it's a family member or a stranger, when we can get down to what's really going on in here and the pretense and the performance is out of the way. There's such a universal connection with this heart space. Anyway, lots of traveling, lots of growth through those years. I was grown up, but you still want your mom and dad. And suddenly there's no home base that was easy to get to. So Christmases were spent with my older sisters. And when their babies were born, my mom and dad couldn't go. So like we would go and like help support our family with those types of transitions. And us sisters got very, very close. We were there for each other in ways that maybe are a little unique if you have a family that is like in the same continent. Anyway, yeah, during those growing years, I had a lot of wonderful, I would say like really messy growth. And it's interesting because I feel like I definitely have perfectionistic tendencies. And I think that God just knew exactly what I needed. Like, for example, my marriage, I wanted this like fairy tale experience. I wanted to meet the perfect person, have the most beautiful dating experience, have this perfect wedding. And my dating experiences that led to marriage were so messy. 2 broken engagements, like lots of just heartbreak and confusion and lots of resilience. And that's just been kind of a reoccurring theme is disruption, resilience, and then the blessings and the growth that have come from that over and over again in different ways. And also just my relationship with fear and power and just like how connected those two things are. Had so many personalized experiences with that. But my life has been beautifully customized. It's been messy. It's been not tidy, but like so precious, and like so many different experiences that have felt like exactly what I needed to become. I see this pattern like in doctrine and other books of like sacred texts that are important to me, that God is not about efficiency. He's not about efficiency. He's not about convenience. He is about sanctification. He's about transformation. He's about this process of becoming. And it's been really a beautiful thing to just surrender to that plan and to embrace what looks like messiness to me as is divinely orchestrated. I heard a quote once actually that has really stuck with me, and it said that celestial work will always look messy to telestial eyes. And I think that that's very, very interesting. And I'm like, yep, I have personal experience with that. And he's about something bigger. And often he does his best work in those valleys, right? And those shadowy places that we pass through. But it's about becoming. So I hope it's okay for your listeners. I have a strong faith in God, and that's a part of who I am. And so as I share who I am, that's going to be a part of the conversation. I hope that those who are listening can maybe just apply what I'm saying in language that fits with their perspectives and things. I certainly don't want it to feel like I'm not inclusive of all the faiths and beliefs that are out there. I am as a believer in God, and I love to bring him into my experiences. He's just been there with me.
This is wonderful. In our family, Erin, it's not quite as artfully articulate as you've said, but we have a phrase that God is surprising.
I really like that.
I also personally believe that I do not want to worship a God who I've got figured out. You know what I mean?
I love that.
He's omnipotent and he's omniscient, and he has plans for me. He has plans for you. He has plans for all of our, vast audience of listeners. This is exactly why I've started the channel, is just to have tell me what you've been telling me. I am curious about one thing. Yeah. That lovely vignette of your mom, I can just picture her sitting down crying. Have you and your mom ever talked about that since then, or has it just been kind of just you thinking about that sacred moment? I was just curious.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't ever talk about it. It's so interesting. It was really interesting because we didn't talk about it, but then I got to witness her transformation over there. She went from that moment, which is such a like just vivid memory in my mind, to over the next several years getting her master's degree, teaching in the higher colleges. She was teaching in the local university. She published a book over there about education. I mean, like she soared. Not only did she survive, but she soared. And it went from this moment of like complete breakdown, like overwhelmed, to she was being sought out to teach in these university classes and just did a phenomenal job at that. So it was so cool to witness that growth.
Well, one of the big questions that we ask on these podcasts, especially the last bunch of them, is this question: what did life teach you the hard way? that kind of comes to your mind that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah. Well, actually, the first thing that comes to my mind leads into I have two experiences that are connected. They may seem, I don't know, they do seem connected as I'm looking back on it all. Life has taught me that in order to grow and become, God will ask us to go to the very edge of our faith and beyond. Again, it sounds so silly, but it honestly was like one of the most sacred and life-changing experiences of my life. And I'll share that with you. I grew up terrified of heights. It was just like this fear that was always there. Places like amusement parks or whatever, I didn't feel excited to be there. I felt a lot of felt terror and anxiety. And I remember my dad just encouraging me and pushing me to face those fears head on. And there were so many success stories where I'd wait in line with him for a roller coaster, and then we'd get on and the thing would come down and lock, and I'd just start bawling my eyes out. And the person who's like operating the roller was like, should we let her out? He's like, no, she's good. She's good. And I'm bawling my eyes out. And then afterwards, just having this feeling of elation, like I did it and I was okay and it was fun. So that I can't count how many times that happened with my dad. He was very good at pushing me out of my comfort zone. But that fear was really, really deep inside of me. So I want that for the context for the story. My husband, Mike, is the opposite. If he could fly, like if he could be a bird, that would be his dream. He loves to fly. He loves to fall. He loves to just have that feeling. And it was one of his dreams to go skydiving. And so his birthday was coming up, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up skydiving for him. He's going to be so thrilled. So I called the place. We were living in Northern California at the time, and I'm talking to the person on the phone. I was like, I'd like to set up skydiving for my husband. His birthday's coming up. And the guy on the phone tells me, he doesn't want to go alone. He wants to go with you. You need to go too. And I'm sitting there like, no. I've got a 6-month-old baby at home. There's no way. And he's like, I've got 2 instructors who've got newborns, who've got little children. They jump like multiple times a day, every day. Like, you've got to go. You've got to try this. And the crazy thing, Rivers, is that I could feel the Holy Ghost, like this feeling inside of me telling me, you need to go. Yeah. And it got so big inside of me that I had to actually excuse myself from the phone call. I was like, okay, think about it. I'll call you back. And it was, the feeling like when you just know you need to get up and share something, maybe in your congregation or whatever. It was like that, but the volume was turned like full blast. Like, it was like this insane, undeniable feeling. Like, you need to go skydiving. And I went into my room. I knelt down beside my bed and I prayed. And I said, Father, I feel like you are asking me to go skydive. I am terrified. I don't want to do this. Do you really need me to go? And I heard a voice inside my heart, inside my mind, in a way that I can't explain, but it was like I heard his words. And he said, Erin, I need you fearless. And I just buried my face in my covers and started to bawl because I knew I had to go. Yeah. I knew I had to go.
Yeah.
And so I called back and I set up an appointment for the next day for 2 of us. I remember hanging those like parachute guys, like that you drop off, like those toys. I hung those up and I had a little sign, like one was labeled you, one was labeled me. I was like, surprise, we're going skydiving. And I'd have these moments of like nauseating fear. Like, I almost felt like I was going to throw up. And then other moments where I was like, I can do this. And it was just like this awful pendulum that was kept swinging and swinging. And that night as I went to bed, I literally felt like it was like my last night on earth. Like, I was tucking my children in. I was like, I actually feel like I might die. Like, it was the craziest. It wasn't rational, but it was very felt. And I didn't sleep 1 minute, not 30 seconds. I was so full of anxiety and so full of terror. I think I had a child who even like threw up in the night. Like, there were so many things that were happening that I was like, I've got so many excuses. I can definitely like not go. But then there was this part of me that just knew that I had to go. I wanted what was on the other side of that more than I wanted to stay in this space of like fear and being so limited. So amazingly, everything worked out. We got a babysitter who knew and loved our family. I felt like our kids were in good hands, and we drove to the skydiving place. It was about an hour away, and I was feeling really like ready to go. We started filling out the paperwork, and the paperwork was awful. Like, if you've ever gone skydiving, you're like signing your life away. You're like, I acknowledge I could die. So I started to get like that sick feeling again. Like, I literally felt like I needed to throw up, and I went in the bathroom. And I was just like, Heavenly Father, if you need me to do this, it cannot feel like this. Like, I cannot do this. Feeling so sick and so afraid. It's like, please, if you need me to do this, help me to feel peace. And then, Rivers, something happened. Like, I do not know how to explain it other than it was just this very felt shift. Suddenly, I I felt all of the anxiety just leave. It was just gone. Like there wasn't a trace of it. I just felt filled with this calm, this peace, this total assurance. And it was a feeling of total surrender. And I was able to get into that little jumpsuit and zip it up. And I was able to go sit on that little tiny plane and get buckled into it was a tandem jump. And so I'm sitting like next to this person, and he was the perfect person to go with me. He's one of the ones with a little baby at home. And I was expressing like how I was feeling. And he's like, you're going to love it. It's actually so meditative. It's so peaceful. You're going to feel held. It's so safe. I promise it's going to be okay. Just like all this reassurance. And I remember like you get to the 10,000 feet or whatever, and they open up that door, and it's just like the whole plane is like roaring with this sound, this like wind, and it's so loud. It's just like overwhelming. And I just felt total peace. And we scooched ourselves out. We sat out on that wing, and suddenly we just like dropped and did a gainer. And like I'm flying through the air, and I'm just feeling like the most freedom and the most joy I've ever felt in my life. And I felt completely safe. There wasn't 1 ounce of fear. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We landed so gently, and I felt like something had, that feeling of like, I think I'm going to die. I was like, something did die inside of me that day. And that was my fear. Like that fear died. And what was fear. Yeah. And I just felt like this new, like, there's something about experience that is so powerful, because I always had faith in like, in theory, that God can help me do hard things or whatever, but to like have the experience of that, not only doing it, but being filled with peace while it was happening. It was life-changing. So that was in March. And then what was interesting is that in July, I remember the exact day and like where I was in July of that same year, just a few months later, my sweet sister passed away by suicide. And I remember just, the shock of the news, and just there aren't words. There are not words for that experience. However, I was able to feel through the process of moving through all that followed with her passing, the strength and the peace that God gave me. It was like that skydiving experience was preparing me to move through my worst nightmare. And yet, just like I felt his peace enter my body as I was about to fall out of this plane, I felt his peace enter into my body as we prepared to see her viewing, as we prepared to go through her apartment, as we prepared to do things that were impossibly hard. And we were in the middle of it. And I remember this one moment. I do not ever have to feel afraid again, because here I am right in the middle of a nightmare, and it feels like love. It feels like strength. It feels like peace. And it's because I was able to move through that not alone. I had my mom, my sisters. God showed up for us. There were countless miracles and they're so sacred. I hope it's okay that I don't share too many of the details around.
Of course.
But like we literally experienced so many miracles that I came to just expect them. If we needed something, I knew that all we had to do was pray. And it was like, it would happen. And it's so interesting because we felt so prompted to go to every place that in our hearts felt like empty or so sad. Like she passed away in her car, and we went and we were able to just like take out her belongings and like go through her car in a way that was so filled with love, that there was no mystery there. There was no unknowns. It was just love. And that space that felt so dark turned to love. She passed away at a certain parking spot that was going to be passed by regularly by her husband. And we got him in the car, and we went to that parking spot, and we stood beside that parking spot, and we prayed, and we talked to her, and it transformed to love. And there's no space that she went that we didn't go. There's no space where she felt alone where we didn't go, and it didn't just transform to love. And so when I look back on that July, it's not with emptiness or heaviness or fear, or it's with a lot of inexplicable tenderness, so much tenderness. And I feel like that was just miraculous, that God was able to take something so empty and so heavy and so heartbreaking and devastating and turn it to love. And I know that that's why he said, Erin, I need you fearless. Something's coming, and I need you to trust me more than you've ever trusted me in your life. You need this experience so that when you're going through that, you know that you can access me in the middle of whatever's happening. And I really did. And there's just been so much healing by facing it head on, by facing the grief head on, by not trying to resist it or avoid it or run away from it or numb it, just like letting it be felt. And I'm learning, Rivers, that one of the bravest things that I can do is just to feel what I'm feeling, just to feel it, just to let it and let it go through me, and then to let it move through me, let it pass. And those waves still come. Sometimes they're huge. Sometimes they're like just sort of like little and like in the background. There is an undercurrent of peace that is, it's as real as the sunrise. It's real. Access it and feel it no matter what the day has been like. And so it's been an interesting thing to move forward with that grief and realizing that's not something that we move on from. It's something that we move forward with. And just so many experiences through a thin veil with her. I feel like suicide can be a complicated grief because it's compounded by a lot of things that it's just a very, very complicated grief. And I am grateful that we've had experiences through a thin veil where we've been completely reassured that my sister Angie's okay. She is okay. She is whole. She is so good at making sure that we know that she's aware of us. I didn't realize these. I'd never gone through griefs, but loved ones will send messages. And one of the ways that she reaches to us is through heart-shaped things that nature, heart rocks. And that's happened. It's just the sweetest thing. It happened just the other day. I was feeling a lot of grief. Her birthday was on March 30th. So those milestones tend to bring up a lot of tenderness. Things can well up. Lay a blanket out in the grass. Heart was tender. And in the middle of this grassy field, there's no other rocks around. There is a little heart rock just sitting there, right where we're about to lay out.
No, wow.
Things like that happen regularly. And I'm just like, she's here. She's aware of us. And she makes sure she knows that we are so loved. It's really beautiful. So that all kind of connects to the work that my husband and I are doing now, just feeling so whole to create spaces for people to feel loved, deeply seen, connected. And I do feel like my sister is like my partner on the other side of the veil, like in doing this work. The first time I felt called to do a women's retreat was just a month after she passed. And we gathered and met with about 9 other really amazing women. And there was a strong feeling that everyone who attended also needed to contribute. So it's not like everyone's just sitting there passively, like listening to some expert on the stage. It's like they are the experts and they get to share their own experiences, their own hearts, their own hard-earned lessons, their own victories, whatever they're passionate about. And I cannot tell you how much I've learned from these gatherings, and it's changed my eyes. I feel like going to the grocery store, sitting in the gas station, every single person I see, like there's something incredibly precious inside of you. And I need you and you need me. Like we need each other. There's a beautiful quote. It says, "That which is most personal is most universal." And I feel like that is really true, that at that heart level, we are all so connected and learning so many of these things, even if the external circumstances around it might look different. Yeah, so my husband and I do these retreats. He does them for men. I do them for women. We do things for couples. And it's in that name of just connection. I think connection heals more than we realize, and our world needs it right now. So that's kind of, the work that we're about at this point.
That's incredible. A couple of things that I take away from Erin, this is exactly why I'm doing this, just to hear these stories and just inspiring. But I just love the idea that God would use jumping out of a plane as a way to, he's about 80 steps ahead of you. He's 80 steps ahead of me, and how that came and benefited you in your grief. I mean, hey, that's incredible.
It was fascinating.
I think we pay lip service to submitting to the will of God, but when push comes to a shove, like you got nauseated.
No, I wanted to throw up.
I mean, and I think that I have found that, the great lessons of my life that I've learned, none of them came from really lollipop and rainbow experiences. They came from tough places. And the idea of submitting our will to God's, even if it means jumping out of a plane, because if you look at it, I'm a 70-year-old, not planning to jump out of a plane anytime soon, I might add, but I could come on real judgy. I'm not, by the way, but you could just say a mother of small children is going to jump
Mhm.
out of a plane. What the heck?
I know.
Here, it made no sense. It makes no
Made
sense.
no sense. And it's interesting. Some people would love that experience and would pay
Oh
for
yeah,
that. For
yeah.
me, it was my biggest fear. I cannot like state that more. I would, I told my husband once I would pay $1 million not to have to do that. Like I would not choose that for anything in the world. And then that's the exact thing he asked me to do. So interesting.
Well, I think that comes back to the surprising nature of God, and that He has a plan for you. Had no idea what was ahead of you, but I think that my guess is that that experience and all of the other experiences that you've had in your life, they've all led to these retreat, and you were ready, and you didn't even know you were ready.
Yeah, it was so
Very
interesting.
cool. It's very cool. Now,
Yeah.
ask you this question. Let's pick an arbitrary age. Let's say that you have somebody who's 28 years old who has just listened to your stunning story and inspiring to the max, and he or she is 28 years old. What would you like a 28-year-old to take away from your story, but also your life? Going back, kind of looking backwards a little bit.
I would love for anyone listening at that age or any age to that the things that they long for, the things that they are dreaming, the things that they are like working towards, that it's already all inside. It's like it's already been planted, it's already there. And to trust the process, the slow work of God, like this patient process of becoming, to just trust and to trust that there have been no mistakes, to trust that what is right, to trust that they are astonishingly known and that their lives are being astonishingly orchestrated, that what feels like spaces of regret or the what ifs or the why nots and like all those things, like that's actually part of something bigger. And to just stay anchored in the truth that they have a divine identity and a divine purpose, and it is actually unfolding whether or not they're conscious of it. Like it is unfolding. And it's interesting to look back and to see how in the moment we can't see, but looking back, you can see, oh my goodness, those things are connected, or that was preparing us. One of the things that we do at our retreats is we'll do an actual guided experience to help people feel more connected to their identity, to their purpose. And we've done this enough that I've seen this pattern that I think is important to understand, that so often our purpose is connected to our trials, to our hardships, to like the things that are really, really awful and hard, that those are the things that have actually, that are helping us to be able to accomplish our purpose with authenticity, with authority born from experience. So, I mean, there were times in my life where I was in the thick of darkness, just didn't know. I felt so lost from myself, had no consciousness of anything bigger, anything that was still coming. And I look back on that and I'm like, oh my goodness, that was essential. That was essential to my purpose. Like those periods of time. And it's not meant to be sidestepped. It's not meant to be glided over. It's meant to be like immersive, like felt. And I think that just like those things that we feel and experience, those things transform us. So anyone listening, just trust what's coming up for you right now. Trust the stage that you're in. Trust that this is all part of your remarkable becoming. And also I want to clarify that our purpose, it's not what we do, it's who we are. It's who we are. This is about becoming, and that we are living our purpose all day, every day, in every interaction, and that it's continually just expanding and growing and unfolding before us, if that answers your question.
I played a lot of baseball when I was young, and you basically just hit it out of the park. It's beautiful and very articulate. Um, Coming down the home stretch here, but let me tell you a superpower that I have. I actually have a lot more street cred than you would ever imagine that I have. And part of the reason is I did a 3-year church assignment out at County Metro Jail here in Salt Lake. And every week I would spend 3 hours going out there, and I would do two things. I would go cell to cell in maximum security, and then I teach a Sunday school class or two, to the inmates.
Yeah.
And it was during a time of my life that was very, very difficult financially, especially. And I almost didn't accept the opportunity to go. And so picture this. I have never been accused of having street cred. I am the anti-hip person. I'm just kind of a doughy, at the time, a doughy middle-aged man. And I go out there and I'm scared out of my mind. And I go through all of the doors and the clank and the metal and the smell, fear. It's awful. You can cut it with a knife. So I go into maximum security, and there's two types of maximum security. Supermax, which is one cellmate per cell. They call them cellies. And then there's one cellie per cell, and then regular maximum security has two. And I go in there, and it's kind of like you jumping out of a plane. I'm just going. I felt like I was in a zoo, but I wasn't quite sure whether I was one of the animals in the zoo being watched by this group. It's a 2-story C shape, and they know when you're coming. And so here I am, and I go up, and I start on one end. I go up some stairs, and then I start on one end. A friend of mine starts on the other end, and we go from cell to cell. And I would never have guessed this in a million years, but Erin, it was showtime. I felt so alive, and I couldn't understand why. I had spent 2 years as an LDS missionary in Finland. I marinated in rejection, going door to door. And here I was, and I was having the time of my life. Isn't that? And and nobody in a million years, I told my wife the other day, that I could go into any maximum security prison just about anywhere, and I would be able to do that. That's one of the things I was made for. And I did it for 3 years.
I love it so much.
And I'd say, hey, church, question mark. And they would either nod or say, no, thanks. And then I would share a scripture, usually from, share a scripture with them. And then I would say, give a little message. And then I'd say, can I leave a prayer with you? And they almost always would say yes. And then I'd say, is there anything you want me to say in the prayer? Like, is there anybody you want me to say in the prayer, that your mother who has cancer? And they'll tell me things. And so I'd say the prayer, and the doors were kind of like this. They weren't bars.
No.
And I'd speak through a crack. I could see them, but they could hear me better. And then a lot of times the cellies would be in tears. And I mean, it was a sacred experience. And I felt like I was, I was fulfilling part of my mission for life. And I can't tell you how much that has shaped me. And I think it's really shaped me with regard to, this channel. And I have all these stories, and I call them tales from the jail that I told my kids at the Sunday dinner table. But anyway, you'd never know that. And so with that as an introduction, what do you consider your superpowers? And if you tell me that you've done the same thing, I'm going to be absolutely blown away.
No, but I just want to pause for a minute and acknowledge how beautiful that is. Your ability to see people deeply. I think that's what it is. Your ability to see people and to see into their hearts and to love people and to look beyond the surfaces and look beyond behaviors and to just see their eternal spirits. That's such a magnificent and miraculous gift that you've been given.
Thank you very much.
See that. I can see that in you. That's a really interesting question. I'm not sure how to put it into words, but I think that a superpower that I've been given is sensitivity, the ability to cry, tears. I feel like it's a spiritual gift, the ability to mourn with those that mourn. And again, to be able to see deeply, deeply into people's hearts. As a little girl, I remember being so sensitive that like even during some church meetings, I'd be like 7 years old, 6 years old, and I'd be crying because I felt the Spirit just testify this is true. I remember crying at my own baptism because I felt like so deeply it was true. The ability to feel deeply and to cry I think it's been the way to help myself and others go down into the heart space. I feel like up here we are very like protected, and down here it's so sensitive and it's so tender that it's almost like can't go there, can't go there. But this place needs to be seen and acknowledged and felt and loved and arms put around whatever's here, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, right? And so I think that's my superpower, is being able to access my heart and to help others access their heart. And so often that comes through tears and through deep deep seeing and deep empathy, and yeah, just being able to hold that space. I don't feel uncomfortable when people share things that are really, really difficult. I feel very honored to sit and listen and just hold the space. And it feels like what you were saying, it feels like that makes me feel alive. It makes me feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. So I don't know that there's anything that anyone could share that would make me turn away. I would just feel like whatever is there, it's safe with me, and I'll be there with you. I'll sit with you and I'll cry with you. So, yeah, that's what comes to me.
What a beautiful superpower. I'll bet there are others, but, I had been absolutely inspired by what you told me this morning. You're so articulate and full of wisdom. And I'm so grateful that you came on and shared, and you were vulnerable. Like you wanted everybody in your retreats to be vulnerable, right? And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I hope that whoever's listening, I feel like the real work happens one-on-one directly with God. So yes, I've shared these words, I've shared my experience, but like the real work happens as God makes like that intercession in like arcs between my heart and my words and the hearts of those who are listening. And that's my prayer, is that those who are listening can feel, can receive the exact message that they need from this. And I think the lasting thing that I would want them to walk away with is just to trust, to know that they're infinitely loved and known, and that there is incredible purpose in all of their experiences, and that their identity is eternal and divine.
Some people have asked me what's the biggest lesson that I learned from my 3 years of volunteer service. Easily, I would just say that I learned firsthand and felt firsthand the love that God has for each and every one of his sons. We were dealing with the men, and no matter what they did, no matter how badly they blew up their families or blew up their bodies or blew up this, blew up that. And I was kind of shocked, to be real honest with you. And it makes me really think and wonder. You talked about it a little bit of seeing with the eyes of God. And so one example I could think of is we go to a grocery store and there's a checker who is really, really slow. I used to be a checker. It's fun. Of people, that don't do their job well. And I wondered if there was a switch, and I think there is actually a switch that could go on where, what if I were given a glimpse of this woman's life and, soup to nuts? And how would I feel about the judgy sort of, she's so slow. What is the deal here? And why this, why that? And I just think that I believe that the switch, it's kind of come to me now while we're talking, the switch is the Holy Ghost. And it's through the Holy Ghost that we really see people. And I really just think that your superpower is so related, to the Holy Ghost. And it's a beautiful thing to see, to hear you talk about. So I've had so much fun this morning. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. If something you heard made you laugh, pause, or see life a little differently, pass it along. We're gathering the lessons people learned the hard way, the stories, the second thoughts, and the wisdom that only comes with time. And we'd love to hear yours. What did life teach you the hard way. Until next time, keep the perspective honest and the stories coming. I'm Rivers, and I'm out of here.